Okay, go ahead, Marian. Go ahead.
Yes, well, thank you, Stephen and Miss Gian. Now we entertain po, Sir John Boren. Yes.
Yes. I guess my first question is for Miss Gian. And please forgive my ignorance, but I'm looking at my Meralco bill and it's on my phone. I don't get a paper Meralco bill anymore, but I'm looking, I have a kilowatt hour consumption of between 598 to 600 a month. But that's not, that's over a period of 30 days. Where is the 50 kilowatt that you are mentioning? Is that your maximum draw of
Okay.
electricity or what? Or that's one thing I'm not clear
Okay.
about. So,
So, sir, if you see a number in kilowatt hours, it measures your consumption over a period of time. So
mhm.
it probably measures the total consumption that you made for a particular month. And the 50 kilowatt that I mentioned earlier is a measure of demand in an interval. So in an hour, what is your maximum consumption? And then the one you told me is the total of all the hours that you consumed over the month. To get your equivalent demand level, you would have to divide your kilowatt hours by the number of hours, by the number of days in that month, and your consumption factor. There are different levels of consumption, sir, like a fully efficient consumer that consumes 100% load factor. It's quite rare, but an example of very efficient consumers would be a big power plant that runs, or a big manufacturing plant that runs 24 hours a day on the same level of consumption. So it doesn't go up and down. Unlike normal humans like you and me, so we sleep and wake up at different times. So our pattern of consumption changes. So one part of the day would have more consumption versus the other. So sometimes our possible load factor, or the efficiency of our consumption, could fall maybe around 50%. So you have to factor that in also to compute your per hour demand. But it's supposed to be in your bill, sir. I would have to check the e-version of the Meralco bill to find it. But it's supposed there the distribution utility is required to disclose that information to all consumers.
Maybe if I download it, if I download the
Maybe
bill,
yes,
maybe it will be
maybe
there. Oh,
yes.
okay. So I guess my other question is for Engineer Santos is, does well, even for Miss Gian too, do any of these programs allow for like when you generate solar power with the panels on your roof and you generate more than you need? In America, I know you can, your meter goes backwards. Does it work that way here? Does a utility accept uh excess power back into the grid and deduct it from how much you have to pay? And does anybody do that now? I guess that's
Yeah.
my question. Yeah.
I guess I can be the one to answer that.
Uh,
So currently, what we have in terms of the law and what is currently being used in the industry here in the Philippines is that we have the net metering program by the different distribution utilities, wherein exactly like that, whatever is excess of the production that you did for your solar home, let's say you have a couple of kilowatt hours excess for the day, you can sell it to the grid. Though it does have a lot of a big limitation right now. It's currently capped at 100 kilowatts. So you can only export power to the grid if the overall system that you have is less than 100 kilowatts. So for residential, definitely and most likely you'll be eligible for the program. But for the for the commercial and industrial sector, a lot of these sectors won't qualify for the net metering application, or sorry, for the net metering program.
Thank you, Engineer Santos. I hope that helps, no? Sana rin mapadali yung net metering, no? Kasi parang yung Meralco, ayaw magpa-net metering, eh, no? Yes, Dr. Galang, go ahead po. Nakamute po yata kayo.
Yeah, with regard to the question of the previous participant, I was looking at my electric bill. I consume 314 kilowatt hours for the month, and my rate per hour is 14.47. So yung sinasabi ni Gian na it fluctuates actually. So this is the 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 average, no, per hour. And I would have to consume 50 kilowatts per hour to qualify for that GEOP. Correct, Gian? Okay. My question, how much would I need to be fully solarized? I guess this is for our 𝗙𝗿𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃 speaker. How much would I have to spend to cover my consumption? So I'll give you again my figures, okay?
Yeah.
314 kilowatt hours for the month, and my rate is 14.47 per hour.
Yeah. So in terms of the system size, so let's say a 300 kilowatt hour per month, um in terms of a monthly consumption, in terms of solar, that would be range between 2 to 3 kilowatt peak system. But that's assuming also a big bulk of your consumption is in the daytime only. Because if let's say the 314 kilowatt hours has a bulk in the evening consumption, then the system size will either reduce or increase depending on the profile of your consumption. But based on, let's say, figures of 314, and let's say it's a 50-50 split, we're looking at around 2 to 3 kilowatt peak solar system for the home.
How much will that cost? Because many people are deterred by the cost.
Yeah, so for us, currently, I think for a 3 kilowatt peak system, we would be about 300,000 pesos for the entire system, including already the net metering and all of the permits included for the solar PV system.
Let's say I don't have net metering.
Mm.
I won't apply. Mas mahal ba?
For net metering, at least for the Meralco franchise area, if I'm not mistaken, we have to enroll it to the net metering system because one, it's also to protect the DU for any excess power that you might have, let's say. But if you're gonna ask me, let's say for the net metering application cost, it would just be roughly between 20 to 30,000 pesos.
So mas mahal if you apply for net metering?
Well, it's just the 300,000 includes the net metering already, the net metering application
Okay.
already.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Galang and Engineer Santos. We have a question from Facebook, from Rino Valderas. Do you have, I think both speakers can answer this, no? Do you have plan to microsize the service, like making it more modular and leaning more into pangmasa, since vast majority of the heavy grid consumers are on that community bracket?
I
It's a
think
good
that
question.
also adapts to the question on the chat box, no, from Chester Chang asking is there a financing program for depressed communities? Parang
Yes.
interlink na yun. Yun.
Yeah, I guess I'll go first. So for 𝗙𝗿𝗃𝗃, though we don't have, I guess for if I'm gonna address the depressed communities as of the moment, though we don't have a direct or a specific financing program for the depressed communities. What we have currently are financing solutions, basically a flexible way of solar loans, as we call it, wherein we can stretch the payment terms to about 7 years so that it's a bit more accessible to everyone.
Not bad.
I guess my version of an answer of democratizing it. The objective really of the retail programs is to democratize energy. And the objective of 𝗙𝗃𝗀 was to bring this choice down to the household level. And there are countries that already have this. Like, they buy electricity the way they enter into, similar how you enter into a mobile phone contract or an internet supply contract, as easy as that. And the goal of 𝗙𝗃𝗀 is for us to have that also. And it's just a question of when, but I think the government is slowly lowering the threshold in order for us to reach that while making sure that the systems are ready to accommodate the demand and to make sure that the consumers are aware of their choices too. So hopefully we'll get there soon.
Yeah. Thank you for that answer. Yes, Miss Tessa, go ahead po.
Yes. We've been talking, mga NGOs have been talking about itong renewable energy and yung net metering system ng Meralco, no? They were saying, what if a homeowners association puts solar panels in their rooftops and then they have extra. And since the Meralco buys it at a very cheap price daw yata, they were saying, can they sell the electricity, example, to mga electric vehicles na electric vehicles in their community also? Parang ganyan. So, nagagamit and people also earn from it. So, pwede kaya to? So that's question. Another question is, dun sa 3 panels, kasi para sa 𝗙𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, no? You said that there is a financing. How much would this cost monthly for interested parties? Dun sa sinasabi mong 7 years ba or ilang years? Meron ka pala kayong no down payment, hindi ba? Yung mga ganun. Can you discuss that further? Thank you.
Sure. Hold on. Hold on. So I guess just to address first the first question, in terms of selling, I guess, the power, though it's also technically possible, but there's gonna be a lot of considerations, right? Like, so one is that if the intention is not to sell the excess power to the grid, the timing of the production, because the production of the solar only is within the span of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., right? And the thing is, if we're gonna set it, let's say specifically for the EV charging, for example, we have to coordinate specifically that, okay, you have to charge within this time frame because this is where and when the solar will produce, a certain amount of kilowatt hours, right? So that's a big consideration if that's gonna be the application of the solar. Though it can be addressed by adding in battery systems into the system, but adding battery system to the existing solar system has implication in terms of the capex. So the investment cost really grows as you include battery systems there. Though you have more flexibility with how much you are gonna produce versus when you're gonna use the power, because you're basically storing whatever you produce, right? But the caveat to that is basically there's implications in terms of investment. So typically your investments typically would double to triple depending on how much batteries you want to install or add into the system. But yeah, it's definitely possible. There's gonna be a workaround to it. It's just we just have to be more creative, I guess, on a more technical perspective. And then for the monthly amortization, at least for us in Boscovitz, uh let's cap it at 300,000 pesos, right, for the 3 kilowatt system. Our current interest rate, though I know it would be high compared to the banks, but our current interest rate is about 8.9%. And then let's say a 7-year term, that would end up to around roughly between 5 to 6,000 pesos per month that you will have to pay in a span of 6 to 7 years, specifically for that 300,000 system. So of course the monthly interest rate can be negotiated further on, but that's the standard that we have. We typically get more competitive if we can bulk it more. Let's say we can have more um homes or houses, bundle it up, let's say 5 houses, 10 houses moving forward. So yeah, I guess that's simply rough or ballpark figures that we have as of the moment.
Yeah, thank you. And are the panels heavy? So yung rooftop will have to be
Yes.
changed, mga ganyan?
Not necessarily. So, just to give you context, a typical panel would weigh around 32 kilograms. And that's in terms of square meters, that's 2.5 square meters. Roughly 2.2 in length and then 1.2 meters in width. Typical houses would necessarily not need additional reinforcements for their roof. But we as part of our scope also for Buskovitz, we also do the structural analysis. Whenever we visit the site and we visit the home, that's something we check from the get-go so that at least we have an idea if structural reinforcement is needed or not.
Thank you.
There is a question, I think, from the chat box from Chester Chang. Does the 5,000 to 6,000 monthly amortization rate for 3 kilowatt include batteries already? May batteries na daw po ba yan?
Yeah, currently that's on-grid systems. For us, we can offer batteries already included in the systems, but as mentioned, typically if let's say a 3 kilowatt peak system would have a 3 kilowatt hour system, the ballpark figures in terms of investment is that it would double. So from 300,000, it might be between 500 to 600,000 with the batteries included there.
I see. Thank you, thank you. Any other questions from our audience? Baka may gusto po kayo itanong.
Yep. It's me again.
Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, right now you've been installing mga no sa different companies, residential. What are some difficulties encountered? And siguro what policies do you want government to adopt so that parang it becomes available to more people, sana buong Pilipinas, no? In order to really solve this problem about yung mga war that's happening and you know we're so gifted with the natural resources. So what do you think what were the difficulties and maybe how can government help talagang really accelerate itong renewable energy for our country?
Yeah, I think from us being the solar provider and being the one who installs the systems, right? One thing we always tell, and let's say if we have forums also that involve the government, whether it's DOE or ERC, what we usually tell them is that our pain point is in the permitting side. So because we want to be compliant, right? Every time we install the system. So we have to go through the barangay, the LGUs, the distribution utilities, and then we go up to DOE also or ERC. But the actual permitting process sometimes varies from one city to the other. Sometimes it gets more complicated compared to a different city. You know, even if we're installing the same system, sometimes they would have requirements that for us is not really needed anymore, and it's just, you know, an additional blockage for us to, you know, to get the permits. And that's also us being candid in saying that there are definitely some under the table dealings, you know, from time to time with some of these LGUs. So for us, we really just want standardization, right? Like if these are the set permits, these are the set requirements, we can always comply. But hopefully it's not them giving us a more hard time, right? To be able to be compliant with them in terms of permits. And I guess eventually if there is incentives for homes, you know, whether it's more on the real property tax or maybe some tax incentives if you have solar in your home, that would definitely accelerate, you know, the adoption of solar, because it gives more incentives to the homeowners or the business owners to switch to solar, because overall the not only will they save in their electricity bill, but they'll also have some tax incentives here and there.
Great. Yes.
It should be like that.
Yes. Baka si Gian wants to answer also.
Yes, I think that's a good question for Miss Ian also.
Sure, ma'am. So I guess in terms of policies, the RE Act is actually very good and comprehensive. But the thing about it is execution. So we have good policy, but it's one thing, all a whole other thing to fully execute it. So we've had it since 2008, and the incentives under that have been slowly trickling down. So how many years has it been now? So it's 2020. So is it 18 years? Tama ba? Ang math ko. So, so it's been, nagdedebut na pala si si RE Act, no? And we still haven't fully enjoyed all of the promises under that policy. So it's really supporting the government into fully executing all of those in order for us to fully maximize RE investment.
Okay. Thank you. Great.
Kuhang-kuha, no? So, thank you, Engineer Santos and Miss Gian. Kuhang-kuha ni Miss Gian yung sabi nga dun sa isang maraming forum, I think, that we have attended, always says that we have the best policies in government, but the problem really is execution. Kasi I remember being part of the Renewable Energy Act campaign before, then they say that by 2020, with the renewable energy should be at 50%. But right now, we are way below the 50% threshold. So talagang napakabagal ng implementation ng ating mga batas.